Good afternoon to all of you. As I was coming here today, I was just trying to look at all the headlines that we have in the last 10 days globally across all the newspapers. One said 300 dead in Syria. Something else said 60 dead in Pakistan. Closer home, 60 died in a building collapse in Mumbai. More importantly, 3 days ago, the US government shut down. I had to go to Chennai yesterday to get my visa extended. And I was not sure whether the office would be open because somebody has got to pay those guys, right? And US government had shut down. But what is common in all this? What is common along with all this? The fact that 3 billion people in the world today actually live with less than $2 a day. Why is it that after so many years and so much of advancement with so many engineers around, we still have 1.4 billion people around the world who don't have access to safe drinking water? 1.1 million children die every year only because they suffer from a waterborne disease. And we still continue to go on as though life doesn't matter. What is common? Now let me ask you some questions. You're supposed to be the cream of this country. These are global figures, but closer home, how many people in this country actually have access to water? It's an India which you might not even know. And that's the India I want to talk about in the context of leadership for all of you. Any wild guesses? How many Indians have access to a toilet? Just imagine today's sessions, 10 speakers, and there's a very simple rule. You could be in the sessions, you could have fun, you could clap, you could make all the applause, but you can't drink water. You would have no lunch today. I saw on your invitation, it said buffet lunch offered. If we had written down there, no lunch would be offered. No food of any kind. If you had mentioned absolutely no toilet facilities, I'm not so sure all of you would be here at all. Just imagine, we live in a country today, 67 years after, or closer to that after independence, a country which 200 years ago, along with China, contributed 30% of global GDP. A country which had 20% of global trade share, today has got less than 2%. Look at what we have managed to successfully do to this great country of ours. We have managed to reduce this country to a nation where 25% of the world's poor live in this country today. Despite all our scientific achievements, we have the technology which can launch in one rocket 10 satellites from our own ISRO in Bangalore. But somehow haven't found the technology to build a toilet at 4,000 rupees for 70% of Indians. We still have not been able to provide water to 60% of Indians. 54% of our children are malnourished. And we all just go on with life. And what do you think is happening? And I believe, to me, it's all a failure of leadership. Leadership, not as traditionally understood about leaders and followers. I believed that too for a long time. Till 15 years ago, I was considered a great success. A young man at 19 starts a development organization, which is now one of the country's leading ones. Went into a forest, lived with the poorest of the poor, the tribals, built hospitals and schools, got a former chief minister of Karnataka to write my biography, and I thought I must be a success. Come on, if that's not success, what is? But somewhere deep inside, I felt empty. I felt very exposed in him and absolutely worthless. And that is when I started my own exploration of what leadership could be. Leadership, it's not as traditionally understood about influencing people to do what you want them to do. It's not about leaders and followers. It's something much, much deeper. And to me, leadership is all about the self. It's about understanding yourselves. It's about understanding people around us, the others, and the actions that we need to do for others. And this journey of leadership is what I would like to share. And it started me on the journey of learning to lead. And it continues today as I continue to lead to only learn. So what I'll be sharing is all about this wonderful journey. So I have a very simple question for all of you. If God were to appear here on this stage, maybe wanting to deliver a TEDx talk, and gives you one boon, just one boon, and asks you, what are you ready to ask me for? But he puts two conditions, very simple conditions. You can't ask him for life, long life. And the second condition is, you'll have to give him his life, your life in return. Essentially what I'm asking is, what are you ready to die for this very minute here in this room? I run leadership workshops around the world, and I ask this question everywhere. Very rarely I have an answer spontaneously coming to me. Because most of us have never asked ourselves this question. We never really ask ourselves, what the hell am I alive here for? What am I doing on this earth? Let me tell you, my young friends, if you do not know what you're ready to die for, I can be certain you really don't know what you're ready to live for. You're 19, 20 today. 55% of Indians are your age. 78% of Indians are less than 40. And the tragedy is, most of us don't even know what the hell are we living for. Now it's time to change all that. Leadership, the journey of leadership begins with having a purpose in life. Find your true calling. And the greatest purpose you can have is the purpose of living for others. Otherwise, life is not worth living. Most of our schools and universities, colleges all around, teach us how to live for ourselves. Now, I would like you to begin your journey of leadership, where, like Swami Vivekananda said, life is worth living only if you live it for others. And that's the first step. For a long time, I never knew this. Having a purpose alone is not enough. Sustaining that purpose all your life. Looking at events that happen around us, which gives us the energy to relive the purpose every day in our lives. I remember many, many years ago, as a young physician, I was in this forest. Being born and brought up in the city of Bangalore, which I really don't like too much nowadays, went into this forest, thinking I can change the world. A world where I dreamt there would be no sickness, there would be no inequalities, there would be nothing which could differentiate man from man. And in this little forest, all I wanted was my tribals, the indigenous people of the forest, to accept me as a doctor. That is all I wanted. I wanted the affirmation of society that I was a young physician who gave up his life and career to be with them. And it was not coming. One particular incident changed all that. One young girl got pregnant. And she was in labor. So I went to the small colony. It's a colony called Sani Madana Hadi. Hadi in tribal language is a hamlet, small hamlet. 3 houses, that's all that was there. And this young girl was pregnant and about to deliver. And I thought, here is my chance to prove that I'm a doctor to society. If I were to go deliver that child, no, tribals will call me a doctor. And that's all I wanted. I didn't care about the woman or the child. All I wanted was affirmation of society. And I go at evening at 6:30. It's a forest area, national park. I go to this tribal house and I find this girl is in early labor. And medical college had taught me that early labor takes 24 hours to progress. So I was very disappointed, came back home. I can't call it a home, came back to my hut. And next morning at 6 o'clock, I went back again to the tribal house. And as I was walking, I found one elderly lady at the borewell, hand pump, drawing water, 6 in the morning. She asked me, where are you off to so early? I told her, I'm going to Mehdi's house to deliver her baby. She laughed at me and said, you don't have to go. The child was born last night. I was really upset. What the hell? This child had to come so early? Why couldn't it wait for me? The only chance I had to show I'm a doctor is gone now. I have to wait for somebody else to get pregnant and then deliver. But then I thought, again, medical college had taught me, well, you go put some gentian violet. Now you don't even get those stuff in India. Around the umbilical stump, put some eye drops to the eyes of the baby that is born and come back. At least that way they'll think I'm a doctor. I went to the small hut. And my young friends, that girl, I can't even call her a lady. She was a 14-year-old child who was pregnant with her first child. Tribals don't have structured marriage. They just live together and God help them if they get pregnant. And this child was in the hut and I was standing there asking her to come out of her hut to show me the baby. It's all in Kannada. And I kept doing it for 3 minutes, 4 minutes. I was getting irritated. Here is a young doctor, 21, 22 years old, given up his so-called career, standing in front of this old hut in this village, begging for the child to be brought out, and this girl was refusing to come. I was getting very irritated, agitated. Finally, in all my anger and arrogance, I shouted, if you are not going to get the child out, I am going to come into the house and see the child. Into the hut, I can't call it a house. And what that girl shouted rings in my ears even now and gives me the very reason to live. She said, in Kannada, ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಹೊರಗೆ ಬರಬೇಡಿ, ನನ್ನ ಮೈ ಮೇಲೆ ಏನೂ ಇಲ್ಲ ಹಾಕೊಳ್ಳಿಕ್ಕೆ. That child in 1987, 40 years after Indian independence, tells me, please don't come into my house. I have nothing to wear. She had only sari she was wearing. She had soiled it while delivering her only child in the night on her own and washed it and put it on the hut to dry. And the sun had to come out, dry it, and then she could cover herself again. This, my friends, is the fate of not just one tribal girl in India. It's the fate of so many people around the world. And we still have the time to go to wars. We still have the time to fight with each other. And we still have the time to destroy the only world we have. And what has failed us is leadership. And the time has come to stop complaining about it. The time has come for us to stand up, understand what it is to learn to lead, and keep leading to learn. The time has come for you to understand yourselves. Just remember, 98% of what you are gets recycled every year. It changes. Every atom, every molecule of your body just goes away. We all change. We don't seem to understand that. And we are all the same. Understanding yourself, what drives you? What drives you to be in engineering school? What drives you to come to this program? What drives you to join a computer firm tomorrow? What drives you to dance? What drives you to study? Understand yourselves. Understand what is the real you and why you exist. Understand the people around you. Understand your own abilities to define reality. Learn that your reality may not necessarily be the reality of the next man. Realities are different for different people. Give the space to recognize the differences in each other. That is the beginning of leadership. Start with yourselves. Build with what you have. And then appreciate what the others are. That is the journey of leadership that we need today. What we need today is for you to understand the action you need to take to make this world a better place. We need to be mindful of ourselves, of our abilities. We need to understand leadership as a journey of the 3H I call. The heart. The heart to feel for your fellow people. The heart to feel for the poor, the marginalized, the downtrodden. The head. The head to think of solutions that you can bring into this world today. You're all extraordinarily privileged. Please remember, for every one engineering student who's here in Bangalore today, there are possibly 1,000 others in the villages of India toiling hard for you. And remember, you have to find the solutions. And then the hands to work. It has to be your own hands. Leadership is about you jumping in with the solutions, not about standing there and telling others to go fight the battles. Now this journey of heart, head, and hands is a journey of motivation, strategy, and action that the world is clamoring for. And in that mindfulness that you understand, in that mindfulness that you're able to recognize your own potential, in that mindfulness that you appreciate what living is all about, you will be able to actually redefine the reality we need. What we need today is a world where boundaries dissolve, is a world where religious differences are no longer there, a world where caste makes no difference on us, a world where global citizenship is not a slogan, a world where global citizenship is a way of life. We need to come together in the spirit of true partnership, where you actually understand that I and you are not different. We are all interconnected in this macrocosmic universe that we have created for ourselves. We are all part of the same. And in that understanding of that oneness that India has always spoken about, will a new world arise. A world which you and I will be privileged to create not only for ourselves, but for every living organism in this world. Let that world arise from here. Thank you.